of immigration, and there have been 3 historic waves of immigration, and today is the 3rd one. These past 2 years, we've seen a rise in the 3rd wave with over 200,000 Lebanese immigrating in the past 2 years. And when my family left at the turn of the 19th, early 20th century and such, there was also that sort of plight. So when I went back to Lebanon, literally everyone was gone. Everyone's been in the U.S. and everyone's been assimilated, and no one really speaks Arabic anymore. So I went on this journey to try and find a long-distance relative, and I did end up finding one.
Nice.
Somehow a cousin of my grandfather who claims that he's a cousin, but we don't really know how, and just a really interesting story.
Yeah, so just let's kind of tangent into that real quick. How did you track them down, and what was it like to meet them?
So essentially, I think I've been to Lebanon at this point twice, but only on short vacations. It was always a dream to go and study there, but Lebanon, perhaps rightfully so, has a reputation of being less stable, and people don't really go there to study Arabic because it has such a French and English influence. So I was always in Jordan and on short visits. And then on my 3rd short visit, while I was in Egypt, I went to Lebanon just for like a couple weeks. I was in a place called Tripoli, which is this big city in the north, and I was talking to this priest/bookstore owner in this huge bookstore with like a bunch of dusty books, and I'm like, I really would love to connect with my family, but I don't know anyone from, they say like the house of Naddaff, for example, like it's like a way of saying the last name, like Bates means house, but also means last name in Arabic. So it shows the connotation of like the power of home and such with last name. So I asked, do you know anyone from Beit Naddaff? And he said, yes, of course I know people from that home. You should go to Zahli. There's a small librairie, which is like a stationery store. And there's an old guy who works there. He might be related to you. So then I set out to that small bookstore, and I got on this small van, and I ended up walking along the river in what's called Zahli, which is the land of wine and poetry, actually, in Lebanon.
Wow.
And I ended up meeting I went there and I said, hi, in my sort of broken Arabic, is there anyone here who's from the house of Naddaff? Because it's called Naddaff Librairie. And they're like, I said, is there any older person? They said, yes, the old guy. He's like 81 years old. Do you want me to call him? I said, yes, please. Then I got on a phone with him, and he asked me all these questions about my family. He's like, what's your name? Alfred. Well, Alfred Jeffrey. I'm Alfred Jeffrey. What's your dad's name? Alfred. What's your grandfather's name? Alfred. He's like, that's crazy. All of you guys are Alfreds. What is going on? What's your great-grandfather's name? I told him it's Nasib. He said, Nasib? No way. I used to know of Nasib or whatever. I'm coming over right now. Give me 20 minutes. And then he came over in his beat-up Toyota and took me out for the afternoon. And I had like the best meal of my life with him. We got so full. I passed out in a food coma after smoking shisha with him. This like 81-year-old guy with a little French beret. And then he took me to his farm. This little property that he has was like kind of like a shack. And I fell asleep in his car, and he fell asleep in the shack. And then we woke up and like reminisced some more. And then he gave me some homemade arak, which is like it's like this Lebanese liquor equivalent to like the French anise or like licorice, sort of. That's very well known there. He gave me a bottle because he makes it with his hands, and we've stayed in touch since, which has been nice.
That's awesome.
That was the story. I'm sorry if that was a bit prolonged, but I love telling that story.
That's a great story. I love that. It's like, if I were to try to track down my long lost cousins here in the United States, I'd just go on Facebook and maybe send some emails. And I love how it's a lot of times when you're traveling, was it a bookstore